Good evening. I'm Dr. Grace Telesco, and welcome to the Criminal Justice Forum. We're live streaming from the NSU Fischler College of Education and School of Criminal Justice YouTube channel. Each of our programs examine exciting topics in the field of criminal justice, and all of our guests bring fascinating and thought-provoking topics to life, as each of our educational programs bridge the gap between theory and practice. Welcome to the Criminal Justice Forum. So welcome everyone. Dr. Grace Telesco from the Fischler College of Education, School of Criminal Justice. And I'm so excited about my guest tonight. We have the amazing Chief Jim Polan. And what I'm going to do, he's from Davie Police Department, and there he is. And I'm going to introduce him a little bit and tell you that Chief Polan is a seasoned law enforcement professional with over 39 years experience, including command positions in Fort Lauderdale Police Department, BSO, and Seminole Police Department. He is a graduate of the FBI National Academy, Senior Management Institute for Police at Boston University, Executive Leadership Program at our very own Nova Southeastern University, and he holds a bachelor's degree in professional studies from Barry University. Assistant Chief Polan is uniquely qualified in all aspects of law enforcement, and he's a valuable asset to the town of Davie and in the Davie Police Department. So we are just so grateful, Chief. I just got to meet the chief. I guess it was about a month ago. We all went out to eat lunch and with Dr. Castro and Dr. Kushner and Dr. Durham and Dr. Allen and also Chief Kinsey. And so, Chief, I just wanted to let you know, just kind of alert you that you're on mute. And as soon as you're ready to go, I would love to just hear a little bit about you and your career, and then we're going to dive deep into Davie Police Department and all of the amazing initiatives. Just as kind of like an overview and an introduction, you know, I spent 20 years in the NYPD. I retired at the rank of lieutenant, and I've been teaching criminal justice now for what feels like decades, right? And one of the things that troubles me often is how we're so ready all the time to point the finger at the police and show all of the bad things, all the things that we're doing wrong. And that's not to invalidate or put our head in the sand about the fact that we can always be better and do better, always. You know, this is the social contract, right? You know, the power for protection. We provide protection, the people give us power, and that's a contract that we take very seriously. And so we're always looking at ways to improve ourselves. But what I wanted to do tonight is I didn't want to talk about the problems. I didn't want to talk about the issues in policing that we see on the news and that we've been kind of struggling with for decades now, is how do you police in a free society? But what I want to really focus on tonight, because through our lunch and through meeting you, I was so blown away by and impressed. And as everybody knows, I'm not easily impressed, but I was extremely impressed by the police department here in Davie and all of the amazing initiatives that you're doing. So I want to highlight them tonight. I want to brag on them tonight. And I hope that all of our criminal justice doctoral students, master's students, and undergrads are watching. And I hope that later on, when I share the YouTube link with you, we can share this with the community so that they can also know the amazing initiatives that you're engaged in, you and Chief Kinsey and all of the members of your department. So welcome, Chief. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. And why don't we start off with telling us a little bit about what attracted you to policing, and then maybe you could get a little bit into your career, and then I'll give you the first question.
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. Chief Kinsey sends his regards. He was committed to another event, otherwise he would be here. Well, I started in 1981 is when I began my career And I was working as a small-time police officer in the state of Michigan. I was there at Cambridge Township. And I got into this profession by somewhat following my brother. He was a police officer for the same township, and he was 5 years older than me, and I would see the things that he would do for the community. And policing in 1981 was much different than it is today. Things have changed throughout my career, and over the last decade, they've changed even more. But watching Carl provide the services he did to our community, and basically, I think back then I was making about $5 an hour. There was no health care, no pension, but it's something that you did because you truly wanted to do the job. And I embraced what he did. And I went to the academy and became an officer at the same location. And then while I was working there, I was also going to college. And in Michigan can be cold and windy and challenging at times. I remember a flyer hanging on the bulletin board. It said, "Never shovel snow again. The city of Fort Lauderdale wants you." A pair of combat boots in the sand with the ocean. I took the entire flyer down. I said, that's my job. And never been to Florida a day in my life, no family, no friends. And I'm still here. And one of the best decisions I made. So I spent 22 plus years at the city of Fort Lauderdale Police Department. I retired there as a captain. Most of my career there was either involved with SWAT or motors. I retired from Fort Lauderdale and I went to the Broward Sheriff's Office as a captain to run their SWAT team and continue on with SWAT. So my entire career has been involved really in special operations. I've been in uniform my entire career. With that, I spent some time at the Seminole Police Department as the assistant chief over operations. And then the opportunity came here to come to the Davie Police Department, work with Chief Kinsey and some outstanding men and women that represent the community of Davie. And I've been here for about a year and a half, and I'm thrilled to be here.
Great. Thank you. So I know that there's so many initiatives that you have going on, and you shared them with us at lunch. And I think that, I talked about this a little bit before the show with you as we were, doing some pre-production stuff, but media is a force multiplier. It can work in our favor or it could work against us. And, I used to say to my police recruits, it would be great if you catch us doing something right. Mm-hmm. Don't catch us doing something wrong. Although, it's also good that we're accountable. Of course, we want to be accountable. And so if you're taking video of us and journalists are out and about, wonderful. Yes, definitely. This is how we improve. However, what about media as a force multiplier to show us what we're doing right? And I really would like to highlight and talk about the things that you're doing right, which I know there's a lot. So wherever you want to start, please let us know.
I think Chief Kinsey and I, we have the same vision in so many different things. That's why we work well together. We focus on really some very important pillars for the Davie Police Department. One, people. People are your most important asset that you have. And there are strong men and women here that represent the town of Davie, and they all have that same goal of success. Knowing that none of us are perfect. We're going to make mistakes. Our profession makes mistakes, and we just have to make sure we try to do better, learn from mistakes. After people, we want to focus on policy. Good people deserve good policy. One of the things that we put into play here over the last year, many agencies, and I'm sure, Doctor, where you worked with NYPD, policies are forced down from the bosses up above. And it's like, oh, here's another policy that they want us to do A, B, and C, but no one had any input. One of the things we changed here, which I believe is a very strong positive thing for us, is that we have a policy group. We meet on a monthly basis. That group is made up of officers, sergeant, lieutenants, captains, myself, and even a non-sworn member. We are the ones that create policy for the agency. We look at different agencies around the country. We look at IACP, we look at PERF, we check accreditation standards, and we try to come up with the best policy, best industry standards that we can provide to our people. Good people deserve good policy, and to the residents of Davie. So that's one initiative that I think has really been a good thing for us. That way, when it does come down to the rank and file on a couple of initiatives I'll share with you tonight, they were part of that solution. They were part of the process. So they help us actually sell that on what occurred. The other pillar that's very important is training. And obviously, focusing on training creates better employees. Focus on training provides a better service. And we're always looking for that highest level of customer service. And I'll give you an example as we move further down in reference to some of the training that we've initiated. Followed by supervision. All of us, you mentioned, doctor, we want to be held accountable 100%. I don't believe police officers are any better than anyone else in society, but we should be held to a much higher standard than anyone else because of the authority that has been given to us in our profession. So supervision is extremely important. We want to make sure that we have the best qualified supervisors to provide that guidance and direction to our employees. And I'll share an example with you in a moment, reference to an initiative we did with that. And the final thing is discipline. No matter what pillars you have in place in your agency, discipline is still important. And a lot of times people represent discipline as punishment, and that's not true. Discipline should be looked as a form of training, trying to change behavior, make employees perform better, which obviously provides a better service for everyone involved and a safer environment. And some of the discipline that we've put into play is really more about coaching as opposed to anything that's punitive. So those are the pillars that we follow. I believe one of the examples I'd like to start off with for one of our best practices is called our at-risk residents. It's a special needs registry where anyone in the town of Davie that may have themselves or a family member that has a medical condition or a disability, they go onto our website and they fill out an application. Basically, it tells us everything about the individual. Then once we receive that, a assigned officer responds to the home or the residence, and they have a sit down and discussion and talk. And they talk about all what's going on so we can learn more about that. Then once that's finalized, we go a little bit further. We put together an ID card for this special needs individual. This card has all their information on there, has their photo. It tells us some concerns that we may have. Maybe this person doesn't like loud noises, so we know when we go there, we want to try to be quiet. It gives us the opportunity to learn before we go, because sometimes dealing with those who have disabilities, law enforcement is in a challenging position when we arrive with no information. So this card that they carry in their wallet provides us that information. We also issue a bracelet that has a number on it. Along with that bracelet, there's a tag that goes in the window of the home with the same number here on the bottom that goes with the bracelet that ties into our tracking system that tells us all about the person. So, doctor, if we were responding to your home and you had registered yourself or a family member with some sort of condition, we would know that information before we arrived. And I believe that's a great initiative that we put into play, along with specifically anybody who has autism. And we have a different sticker that goes on the window. Same thing as far as ID card and bracelet, all coinciding with the numbers to provide the responding officers, let them know, hey, be aware of this, and provide that information to them before they start the actual call for service.
Phenomenal. I mean, this is something that at lunch to me, this was a home run. And whether it's a person with autism or on the spectrum, whether it's someone with mental health issues, what other special needs, let's say hearing impaired, deaf, hearing impaired, visually impaired, any other disabilities or any other special needs that you'd like to tell folks about?
Well, anything that the family may have concerns about would qualify for this program. Would
someone who is suffers with the disease of addiction, let's say someone who's been in and out of rehabs and continues to relapse or continues to use drugs in an addictive and abusive way?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, one of the other points I would mention as we got further down, one of the goals that Chief Kinsey has for the agency is to have 100% of our sworn officers trained in crisis intervention training, CIT. Right now, we're just below 50%. COVID kind of put us behind the 8 ball, but we're going forward still. And for those who are listening, CIT is training that was developed in Memphis, It's called the Memphis model in Tennessee. Back in the mid 90s, I remember Fort Lauderdale going through it when I was a young officer as well. And this program is designed to bridge a gap between law enforcement and any type of mental health behavioral services for us to learn how to engage and, more importantly, effectively communicate with those who may need assistance. So that program, a lot of times law enforcement goes on the scene and, we're used to like taking control, loud direct commands and orders. And there's a time and place for that, of course, depending on the situation. But when we're dealing with an individual in need, the whole approach must be changed. So CIT is a tremendous program that we buy into and will also assist us with our at-risk situations.
Yeah, I'm so glad you bring up crisis intervention and the Memphis model, which is what many police departments actually train their recruits and their in-service folks in. And a lot of people don't know it, and a lot of people don't understand it. And part of this is always to gain voluntary compliance from an individual who's having a mental health issue, is not to use force. Like that's like, we don't want to use force if we don't have to. We want to give as much time to this as possible. But if anyone is in imminent danger, then of course, then it all of the rest of the protocol happens. But if you can provide time, give some distance, isolate and contain, try to gather intelligence and as much information as possible, engage family members, all of that is what almost all of us are taught, I think, throughout the nation. But I don't think that many civilians understand that. And also there sometimes is a breakdown in applying the theory and the policy to practice. Mm-hmm. Right? Would you agree?
Oh, 100%. And an example I'd share with you, and we spoke about this at lunch. I shared the example with you. Sometime last year, we responded in reference to a home, an individual who was under care with the county, an elderly individual who was there. They were there to check on his welfare. When they were inside the home, they saw a rifle and or shotgun in the corner next to his bed. It created a level of concern and fear. The caseworkers backed out of the home. They called us. So now Davie PD, we're out there for quite some time trying to speak to the individual. He doesn't want to talk to us. We actually put a small drone into the home to get a look to see if everything was safe and clear. And he slammed the door on the drone. So we knew he was mobile. We knew he had firearms. However, there was no crime that occurred. There were no threats made to the caseworkers, and he made no threats to harm himself. So in theory, there was no purpose for us to be there if he wasn't willing to cooperate. And after about 3 hours of trying to speak with him and talk with him, I had made the decision, it's time to go. So we packed up all of the law enforcement, the SWAT guys, the patrol guys, and they said, we're going to leave. I want to leave 2 individuals here in plain clothes and unmarked car just to monitor the home, to see if he'd come out, we can make contact and then speak with him then. But for us to, and this has happened so many times in our country, I've seen it, you've seen it. I've probably even been participated because of my SWAT background, where we would actually force our way into that situation instead of de-escalating it and walking away because we have nothing. We would escalate it, and many a times we're creating force instead of avoiding it. So we packed up and we left. And I guess that would be one example I could share with you, reference to that de-escalation importance of our position.
Yeah. And, so like, let's say I'm a family member and I have my son, let's say, suffers with, whether it be schizophrenia, usually it's schizophrenia. And there's some type of psychotic break that happens. They're decompensating. They haven't taken their medication, whatever it might be. And they're registered with your special needs program. And so the cops respond and they see the sticker on the window, and the mother answers the door and explains, and then everything falls into place, right? From that point on. Is that how it works in terms of practice?
Yes, that is correct. And you know what? And then trying to establish that not just level of communication, but I always say effective communication. Communication doesn't always work, must be effective. The tone of the voice, the style of the officer, how the officer stands, all that is discussed and trained in CIT, and how you can try to mitigate and de-escalate as opposed to making things worse.
Yeah, and how many members do you have? How many sworn officers?
We have 223 sworn, and the police department itself is 300.
And so one of the things that I'm so not familiar with being down here in Florida, up in New York, it was 40,000 and it was one police department. That's it, for the 5 boroughs. Mm-hmm. And the city is large. There's like 8 million people that reside there. Mm-hmm. So it's one police department. And, you always have to kind of play the catch and catch up with fire department or emergency services, paramedics, whatever. And those are the agencies that we would have to negotiate with and collaborate with and coordinate stuff with. What is it like to run a police department, have these amazing initiatives, and then have all of these other police departments that sort of, are around your jurisdiction, but not in your jurisdiction? What is that like?
The town of Davie is 37 square miles. It's, I believe, the largest city town in Broward County. We touch 11 different jurisdictions as far as law enforcement responsibility. I believe our level of partnerships have increased so much over the last decade or two, where in the past, maybe the police departments didn't like to talk and speak or share ideas. There's even more of a difficulty with dealing with the fire department. Now, I do believe that the partnerships, the level of communication is increased tremendously. A couple examples would be in the early 2000s, we created a Broward County SWAT Association, where every month we would get all the SWAT team commanders together and we would talk about training, people, equipment, what we could share, any calls for service that we've been on, what we learned from it, lessons learned, because we all know that learning from the past is extremely important for the future. So that's still going on today, which is a great way for us to learn from each other. Our negotiators, every agency has usually a negotiating team above and beyond CIT. They also get together. In fact, Dr. Vince, he's very well involved in that, of course, and I've been fortunate to speak at his gatherings more than once. So it's, even though we may not share the exact same policies or protocols, I do believe things are improving tremendously, even though there are so many different agencies in Broward County.
Yes, yes. So let me just tell the viewers again, if you perked up when you heard about the special needs registry, all you have to do is Google Davie Police Department. And when you come up with their website, you just go right to their menu option, and you go to their top services. And in top services is special needs registry. You click on that, and you're gonna come up with a whole really awesome introduction to what this is, what the database is for, that it's only utilized by Davie police officers, and it's confidential. So when we talk about HIPAA, right, which is, again, I'm sure you've heard in the news when people are talking about active shooters and finding out about folks' mental health issues, etc. And people are like, well, why didn't you share that information? And one of the reasons is HIPAA, confidentiality, right? But your special registry, your special needs registry is strictly confidential, and that's not shared with anyone but your police officers. Correct?
That is correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you just go on there, folks, anybody who's watching, just go on there and you just click on the link. It just gives you a whole bunch of information about it. You click on the link and then you register. And then someone from the community policing unit will contact you, right? So tell us, if I know you have other initiatives that you're going to discuss with us, and I don't want to interrupt you. But can you tell us a little bit about the community policing unit?
Sure. So the community policing unit, they have several different tasks. The most important really task is dealing with quality of life issues. Quality of life issues could be dealing with homeless. When years ago, like when I first started, and even maybe you, doctor, our our profession, our duties and responsibilities were much different than they are today. I think there was a big change in 2008 when we saw the economy fall. Many of our social services were closed due to funding, and even some police departments across this country closed the doors and turned the keys over to the sheriff's office because of funding. So our officers are now doing things that they'd never done before in the past. Our COP officers, they deal with homeless on a very frequent basis. And, homeless isn't a crime. We do our best to try to provide them with guidance and services, trying to get them back into the work life. Just recently, we had an officer work with a family that was here, mom and dad and a couple of kids living in their car, a terrible situation. And the officer in our COP unit was able to make arrangements, get them tickets back to Texas, get them back home where they belong with their families. So those are always a great story to share. In addition, our COP officers, they work specifically with the community, like on this special needs registry. That's one of their responsibilities. Officer Larry Elliott is the key behind that. If someone would call in the next day or two or next week and would like to register a family member, they're going to meet Officer Elliott when he knocks on their door to pay him that first visit. So when we have anything specific dealing with the community or families, we hand the ball off to the COP members, and that is their main responsibility.
That's great. Yeah. So I know you have a whole host of other initiatives that you want to sure. dig into. So let's hear about them.
So to continue on with the de-escalation, because we know, it's a buzzword today, right? De-escalation, even though it's not new to our profession, we've seen and heard about this quite a bit going back to the media again. One of the things we put into play about a year ago was what we call a de-escalation forum. And you know what? You see police officers pointing their guns at people, their tasers at people, maybe pulling out chemical agents, whatever tools we may have of the trade, we use them to try to solve a problem. But that information wasn't tracked unless the gun was fired, the taser was used, they sprayed somebody with chemical agent or actually struck them with a baton or an asp. It's not captured. What Chief Kinsey and I wanted to do was every time one of our officers used a tool, and whether I point my firearm at you because I'm legally justified to, and I give you lawful orders and you comply, or if I point my taser at you, give you lawful command and you comply, whatever I may do, we now capture that information. So if I would pull you over on a traffic stop for some reason, I was justified in pulling out my taser, but you complied, I still have a form I got to fill out that we call a de-escalation form. And it's a fill in the box form that our officers do. And the reason we wanted this is to show how many times our officers are using going back to the pillars, using their policy and their training to solve a problem. Instead of always pulling the trigger, we're showing that they use their tool that they're lawfully assigned, that they're trained in, that they're prepared to use. But through that and effective communication, they solve the problem without having to use that level of force. So we do not consider the use of force. We consider a de-escalation, and that's how we now track that. Down the road, if one day, and I pray it doesn't happen, one of our officers is unfortunately that they have to shoot someone. They have legal justification, under deadly force and rules of engagement and in the law. If for some reason someone would say, wait a second, Jim Polan only pulled his gun one time last year and he shot the guy. Why did he do that? So no, that's not true. Actually, if we look at the de-escalation, Jim Polan not only pulled his gun 15 times, he pulled his taser 7 times and his chemical agent 3 times. He never used any of those because he was successful in mitigating and solving that problem through proper de-escalation, which goes back to our training, our lesson plans, and our policy that provides guidance to our people. So we're really excited about this one. And I hope one day we never have to use the numbers to justify our actions, but if we do, we now have them. And prior to that, we would not have had those statistics or numbers to share.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And see, that's another issue that we need to educate I think, the public about and civilians about is, all of the incidents and interactions that we have every single day with citizen police interaction that go unnoticed, go unreported because they were successful. They were successful interactions. They gained voluntary compliance without having to use force, but that's not registered or recorded anywhere. And so we're only counting what we can count is that which, rises to the level of the news.
Right.
And we never want those to happen. And that's what I used to say to my recruits. We never want it to go south. We always want to gain voluntary compliance. If we have to use force, we use that force which is necessary. And so excessive use of force is criminal, and we don't want to do that. And we never want to do that. Right. But if you look at all of the times that we have interactions with citizens and everything was great and it was de-escalated, or voluntary compliance was gained, wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to show, okay, so that we're really talking about maybe a 1% or 2% of the whole? Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. If most people don't realize, we have almost 18,000 police departments in this country. Anywhere from, we're low right now, obviously, in the profession as far as retention. However, we're still looking at about 800,000 police officers from coast to coast. If you try to tally the number of contacts they have with the public every day, both positive and unfortunately a negative, how many of those situations are solved or mitigated or stopped with no use of force because of effective tools and training? We don't have those numbers across the country, but Davie PD is going to have them.
Yes.
For that one day. So unfortunately, out of those 18,000, different police departments across the country and the millions of contacts every day, the public would only see when we have something really bad that occurs. And then, of course, it's throughout the media, and things change from there.
Yeah. And that's not to say that there are certain groups that are experiencing disparate treatment. And we know that. And that's a bigger problem. That's a problem in not just the micro, in terms of our day-to-day policing interactions, but on the macro as well, like on, societal, globally even. So, are you going to talk about the Citizens Academy at all?
I can. I'd like to just kind of go off on this just for another second, please.
Sure.
Along with de-escalation, we talk about, what goes around nationally, and that maybe have that one or two things that occur. We saw 2 years ago with what happened in Minnesota with Mr. Floyd, a terrible situation. And they'd always talked about there should have been a duty to intervene. And there wasn't, but there should have been. Well, we have an obligation to look at that and to make changes, because if it happened once, it surely could happen again. Locally here in Broward County, there was a situation with an agency reference to duty to intervene between two officers that was caught on a body-worn camera. So we put a section, obviously, and I think many agencies are now, in their response to resistance or use of force, whatever they call their policy. We call ours response to resistance. We say our officers don't use force. We respond to the resistance that the subject is providing to us, and then we use it with legal guidelines and the tools that are available to use. But just writing duty to intervene, a paragraph or description or definition into a policy, is not going to change the police culture that has been the same for 100 years. It's not going to happen. We had to go one step further. I do believe we may be one of the first agencies in Broward and maybe in the Tri-County area. I don't know for sure, but our duty to intervene, we do role-playing scenarios. So our training unit, they put our officers through reality-based training in scenarios that are showing them the proper ways, both verbally and physically, if they safely can duty to intervene if an officer may be doing something that they should not be doing. At the end of the day, we want the officers to understand a couple of things are happening here. One, we're protecting the subject. Number two, we're protecting the officer. Number three, we're protecting the profession. And it's extremely important that happens in all three of those things that occurs. And our duty to intervene role-playing scenarios, I believe, is going to make a big difference between what could happen or what will happen. Yes.
And now you're singing my song.
Mm.
Reality-based training, and that's what we do here at NSU. We're doing that a lot in the classrooms. I think before the show, I was talking to you about a prison riot hostage situation that we're going to be simulating in one of our criminal justice classes. And Dr. Van Hasselt is going to be with us, and Julie Curcio is going to be with us as well. And we're gonna just put the undergrads through what it feels like. And it's a prison riot, it's a hostage situation, but they can't use force. Mm-hmm. And the whole point of that is going to be de-escalation. So I love reality-based training. I've been doing that for decades, and I think it really works. Did you want to talk about the Citizens Academy? Because I think the Citizens Academy is like such an amazing tool that we can use to really show what policing is about.
Absolutely. In fact, we're just finishing up one. We haven't had one in a couple of years, obviously, because of COVID. It impacted a lot of things across this world, as we very well know. We meet every Tuesday at 7 p.m. And I think we have one or two more classes left before graduation. This past Tuesday, they actually had a kind of a fun night for them. They were in our firearms range and under very safe, secure atmosphere with our instructors. They are all allowed to shoot different firearms to have an understanding what the firearm can and can't do. So for individuals who had never fired a firearm before, it was a great opportunity for them. Scenario-based training. Doctor, next week, they're going to be involved in scenario-based training. And I think that's one of the greatest tools for the public to experience. I know the media has been part of scenario-based training, or maybe some sort of a simulator training more than once. And it's an eye-opener that, why did you shoot the guy with the phone? Well, I thought he had a gun. Yeah, but he didn't. He had a phone. Right. They start to see the type of decisions that an officer has to make in a very short period of time in darkness. And there's a level of fear that occurs, and that all comes into play. But then, unfortunately, we could go on for this forever. People have days, weeks, and months to prepare, and Monday morning quarterback would occur when the officer had 2 or 3 seconds in a low light atmosphere to make a decision. So the reality, the stereo training they'll go through next week in the CPA will be it's a home run. It truly is.
Yeah.
The CPA is the program itself. They learn all about the police department. And you know what? The more we can be engaged with the community, the better off we are. I mean, who Sir Robert Peel is. Not many people do, but you do. And that man, 100 years ago was saying things that are still relevant today.
Exactly.
And yes. You read those kind of like, what Sun Tzu said in The Art of War, the things that they say, like with de-escalation. Years ago, Sun Tzu, 2,500 years ago, he was a Chinese warrior, said, to subdue the enemy without fighting is a supreme excellence. Those words couldn't be truer than today, and they were said, that long ago.
Absolutely.
So, in the CPA, they learn everything about the police department, from budgets, which they probably fall asleep in, to administrative, all the way through everything that the agency does and how we function, how we breathe, the 3 different divisions, and they finally kick off with training at the end, and then I believe graduation is in 2 weeks.
So the Citizens Academy is how long? 3 months?
It's 17 weeks.
Okay. And how would someone go about joining the academy, signing up for it, registering for it? What's the process?
You know what? I'm not sure if we currently have anything on the website for it because it's actively going right now, but we do advertise. We're getting ready to go forward with it. As far as anything on our Facebook page, on the website itself, we put it out there. And of course, at any given time, they can call the police department direct. Feel free to stop an officer. I mean, our officers on the street are the best. They're the best brand for the Davie Police Department. They represent the entire department.
Exactly.
So they're there to provide that level of service. And if they don't have the answer when that next academy would start, they'll get it for you.
Yeah.
So I want to say there may be another one in February, but that's not final yet. So I'd hate to put a date out.
Yeah, it looks like if you go on the website, you can get in touch with Amy Ham, and it has her phone number there, and also Julia Sordo. So it's got their email addresses and their phone numbers. If you are interested in being a member of the Citizens Police Academy, we would love to have some of our students go through that.
Well, we'd love to have you. Absolutely.
Yeah, we would love to do that.
Those two young ladies just mentioned, they are still the go-to people. So I'm glad to see that the website's accurate.
Yes.
And it's there, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
And, they do a very good job with facilitating that program.
I mean, you're absolutely right. In NYPD, we had a lot of community leaders and pastors of churches that would go through, and day one orientation, lot of opinion, lot of frustration, and rightfully so. The worst thing that we could do, I think, as police administrators, is to invalidate someone's feelings about something. So here they come. The community leaders say that there's all these problems with the police and police interaction, and a strain between the police and the community. And you listen effectively, and you really take notice of what they're saying to try to make a change. But at the end of the academy, when they graduate from the Citizens Academy, they are the best ally of the police now, because they've been placed in situations and they understand. They really, their perception changes. And I think that that's so dynamic in terms of educating.
No, I agree. Well, another initiative that we put in play that ties into what we're discussing right now is the town was very gracious and provided us a nice financial assistance for us to purchase a firearm simulator. And the firearm simulator is, you practice with your firearm on it without using real bullets. That's fine. However, we want it more for the ability to solve problems. So this simulator, there may be multiple scenarios that the officer may be involved in. And, we carry a great set of tools on our belt, whether it's an ASP baton, chemical agent, a taser, handcuffs, a flashlight, of course, a pistol, and other tools in our car. Those are all great tools that we're able to practice with. And each one of those tools arrives with guidance and policy and a lesson plan and state law and case law, what we can and can't do. And they have to show proficiency when they use these tools, that they're qualified and have the skill set and ability to use it when necessary. But I always say there's two tools that we don't have on our belt, that we don't train with effectively, or have a lesson plan or guidance and policy or case law. This simulator provides us those two tools, and those two tools are the most important thing we have. One is decision making, and two is communication. So no matter how great of a tool set you have on your belt, if you're not going to make the right decisions and provide the necessary effective communication, the outcome's not going to be successful. So this simulator that we're moving forward with, and I'm pretty sure we'll probably have, the academy goes in February, we should have the simulator by then, and that will be part of the CPA. And I know, Doc, you mentioned that you wanted to come over and use it when we receive it, so I'll definitely let you know when it arrives. Yeah. But that provides, again, the two tools that are most important: decision making and communication. We don't have our belt. This simulator helps us get into that line. It'll be new to the police department. They didn't have one in the past. And again, this year, the town funded us very, very generously for us to get a high quality training tool.
That's great. We just took a group of undergrads up to Brevard. We're friendly with the Brevard sheriff there, Wayne Ivey. I don't know if you've heard of Sheriff Ivey.
Who hasn't?
Yeah, who hasn't? That's right. So we went up there, and it was a 2.5-hour drive up to Brevard, and we did the simulator. We put all of our students in it, and it was a lot of fun and eye-opening for them. Really eye-opening for them. And I think that they had a really great time with that. So that'll be just such a better, all we have to do is walk across the street now for your field trip. That's awesome. I can't wait for that.
You're more than welcome. Yes.
So, sir, were there any other initiatives? I know you have a ton. Was there any other that you'd like to highlight before we go to questions?
I do have more, but I think the most important one I think I should highlight is that, again, going back to the media and television, we've all seen vicious police pursuits happen across this country. And these pursuits are, they're after bad guys, but unfortunately, there aren't really that many bad guys on the street. They're good people, they're families, they're your mom, my dad, our kids, or sisters or brothers. They're all out there. But these car chases go on, and they're it can be extremely violent, cause serious bodily injury and death. And we've seen that across the country. So many agencies like Davie, we've changed policies where the officers can only pursue for a forcible felony, which would be, rape, robbery, murder, armed individual, etc. in that category. Other than that, we're not going to pursue you because the risk is not worth the reward. One of the things that Chief Kinsey and I put into play again within this past year is called failure to yield. Again, going back with the de-escalation form for pointing a tool at you, we want to capture the information. The failure to yield is this: if I go to pull you over for anything other than a forcible felony, whether it's traffic or a suspicious vehicle or a shoplifting call, you decide you're not going to stop for me. You flee as soon as I turn on emergency equipment. You no longer have the justification to pursue me. We have policy in play that tells them that they have to immediately turn off their equipment, acknowledge on the radio what's going on, change directions if necessary so the bad guy doesn't think we're still going after you, and they continue their reckless driving. Along with that, they got to fill out, yes, another form, but that's part of our profession, doing paperwork. If you don't like paperwork, you shouldn't become a police officer, because everything should be documented. It's for you, and it's the safety for everyone. This form, failure to yield, does this for us. Again, I'm going to go back to numbers. The Davie Police Department only has 3 car chases a year, and all 3 car chases end in a horrific crash where citizens are injured or, worse, God forbid, killed in that crash for unnecessary chases. Doesn't look good for us. So but we chase people all the time, but we've called them off because of policy, but we have nothing to show. This failure to yield now provides us with the numbers to say, Jim Polan actually tried to stop 57 cars last year. 56 of those cars wouldn't stop for him. He called them all off. He filled out the form. We have the dates, the time, and distance traveled to show that there were no pursuits or chases. The one time he chased someone, he was justified under our policy, reference to an armed robbery. It ended in a car chase and people were hurt. Unfortunately, that does happen in this profession. But again, we want to show the numbers that our policies, going back to the pillars, our pillars are so important that we have to always focus on. Our people are following policy, policies guided by training. Our supervisors are making sure our people do what policy says. And if not, then there's discipline, which is trying to correct their behavior, train them, and coach them to make them better. So that's another new initiative we put into play that we're very proud of.
Awesome. Excellent. And I'll give you an opportunity to say one more if you wanted to share one more, because I know you have so many. And then we're going to go to questions, because I have some live questions and then I have some chat questions that Joey will read to us.
Sure. In our profession, unfortunately, this profession, we suffer from a high rate of alcoholism, divorce rate, and suicide. And if I probably, if I said here, I could probably come up with at least 6 names of individuals I worked with the City of Fort Lauderdale Police Department who committed suicide. Bad things happen, unfortunately. We have a few things put into play here at Davie, reference to officer wellness. One, a healthy body, healthy mind makes for a healthy person as well. It has a lot to do with your attitude on life and your behavior. We have 2 different gyms available here at the police department, an inside gym and outside gym. The officers are allowed to work out on duty, which is a benefit to them. Again, relieve a little bit of stress, takes away from all those things that occur in the agency. We provide them with the assistance if necessary through EAP. I talked about CIP, but we're also involved in, Doctor, I'm sure you're aware of this, IACP's One Mind Pledge. And that has to do with the officer's mindset, their interaction with behavioral clinics like, say, Henderson Clinic, to learn more about people, to benefit them. And then we also have very strong clergy here in the agency, with different representatives from our religious institutions in the town of Davie that work with our officers. If we have any type of critical incident that may create a concern with the officers, we get together and we have an open air discussion and we talk about this. We offer assistance that they can do, obviously confidential, but those are services we do provide. For years in this profession, it was like, if you go talk to somebody, then you're not a tough guy. No, you're not a tough guy if you don't go talk to somebody, because talking to someone about what occurred or what happened is only going to benefit you. And again, I started off with the gym because it does come all back to that with a healthy mind, body, and soul. And I think you need that for this profession.
Yeah. And horseback riding. Isn't that what Davie is all about?
We do have a very fine horse unit. Yes, we do. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. What a great night, and what a great opportunity for you to share with us all of the things. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I'm going to ask for my students, my CJ students, to come on. First, I'm going to ask for Alex Suarez, who you'll see his name when he pops up. I hope he's still here. Alex, there he is. All right, Alex, I'm going to add the spotlight for you. And you are a criminal justice undergrad and also interested in becoming a lawyer. He works for a law firm now, kind of on as a side gig, but definitely going to be going right into law as soon as he graduates from Nova. Alex, do you have a question for the chief?
I do. Hey, Chief, how you doing? Good evening.
Good, sir. How are you?
I'm great. First of all, thank you so much for your service. And I just had one quick question for you. You were kind of going back to what you were talking about, the whole de-escalation topic, and like, especially you brought up George Floyd and everything. My question that comes to mind is like, I feel like cops go into, these situations in order to de-escalate, but then, there's always the potential of backlash, like media spotlight, that like can really, ruin like even a police officer's life. So I guess my question is like, how big of an impact does media have in like the effectiveness of a police officer's duty? Like, how can they still be effective in a situation and de-escalating a situation while they're like contemplating the thought of, the media?
Okay. So the one thing I've learned in my 41 years of doing this job, especially when it comes to dealing with internal reviews or internal complaints of our employees, I use the phrase all the time, and I say facts before acts. And I think that's extremely important. I don't believe, and I'm not going to paint all of the reporters or journalism with one brush, but I don't believe today's media, they absorb and listen to all the facts before they put a story out. Again, do we make mistakes? Absolutely. This profession makes a lot of mistakes. But like the doctor said, I believe we do more good for the community than the mistakes that were made. All I would share if I was here with a bunch of reporters, journalists, I would just say, just sit back. You have to give us some time to provide you all the information, provide you with the facts of the case, and then go from there. Unfortunately, the quicker they get the story out, they feel that's what's a need. And sometimes that story is not accurate. Years ago, if you remember what happened in Ferguson, a bad situation for law enforcement, and there was a thing that came out and said, hands up, don't shoot, where the gentleman, we were told by everyone that he had his hands up when he was shot. That was proven to be 100% false. But the media didn't come back. The damage was already done when that came out. So all I would say is those three words: facts before acts.
Yes. Great. Thank you so much. Noah Donato, going to ask Noah to come on. He is not only an undergrad CJ guy, but he's also ROTC, and he's a military man. So go ahead, Noah, ask your question of the chief.
Hey, good evening, Chief. I actually had two questions for you, similar to what Alex said as well. But my first question is, what is the most difficult aspect of policing in today's society? just with
Hey.
everything that's going on?
You know, it's a unique profession. I'm very happy to be part of it. But it's a profession where it's difficult because you have to prepare for everything because anything can happen. And in today's world, society expects the police officer to be ready for anything. I could go down the alphabet, whether it's assault, battery, a crash, a civil complaint, a critical incident, a domestic, elderly, homeless. I could go down the alphabet where we're expected to know everything about that, and also required to go into a home that we've never been into before and solve problems between mom and dad or with their child when we've never been there before. It's somewhat unrealistic, but that's our current profession today. Today we're carrying AEDs, we're carrying quick clot, we're carrying tourniquets, we're carrying Narcan. All these things that weren't there before that now law enforcement is required to do. And again, I mentioned before, we're not better than anyone else. We should be held to a higher standard, and I want to be held to a higher standard. Certain things that we're required to do during the day: to be professional, honest, integrity, show empathy, but at a flip of a switch, they may have to go hunt someone and take someone's life. I think that might be one of the most difficult things, because it's that one profession where you have so many things to prepare for. There's not enough time in a day to provide all that training. If you look at other professions, say Alex is going to be an attorney. He's probably going to specialize in something. You have attorneys that specialize just in civil. They specialize just in divorce. They specialize just in contracts. That's all they do. If I'm going to get a heart replacement, I want a heart replacement doctor to work on me, not a doctor who's, general practice medicine. Most professions have those specialties. We really don't. It's jack of all trades. I think that's probably the most difficult thing for any officer today that's putting on the uniform.
Yeah. Hours of boredom, moments of terror.
Yes.
That's what we used to say in the academy.
Yes.
Noah, do you have another question?
Yeah, kind of a follow-on question to that. Going back to what you're talking about with the CIT training, or the crisis training that the officers get. I know that some departments now, from Colorado, and my department back home does have like these Mary cars as well, that are just mental health professionals that ride around. Is that something you guys have as well?
Well, it's not, but if we would have continued on, that's I have a list here of things I wanted to cover. Number 8 on my list, I'll read it to you. It says behavior resource team. In parentheses, I got TBA to be discussed. We recently had a discussion, was brought to our attention by one of our lieutenants for us to partner with members from the Henderson Mental Health Clinic to bring them on board with the agency and have them assist us, because we've learned, I'm not really sure why. In fact, the doctor, and we met with some of her peers just recently in our luncheon. One of the things we wanted to focus on is why there's so many Baker Acts or involuntary medical situations in the town of Davie. We're averaging almost 500 Baker Acts per year in the town of Davie, which is it's a huge number. So we want to understand the why with that. So it's one of the things that Nova is going to help us with. Along with that, this behavioral team is something we are discussing, would be a great benefit. Not for them to respond on their own, of course not. They would be partnered with an officer. But that is an item that we do have. It's on our tally list. Good question.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Chief.
Thank you. So now I'm going to ask for Shannon to come on. And Shannon is one of our undergrads, another soon to be lawyer whose father is also a chief. Am I right? Shannon?
He's an officer of Suffolk County.
Officer. Why do I always promote him? I'm always promoting him. Anyway, I know you have a question.
Yeah, so I wanted to bring it back to how you talked about the stickers and the ID cards when it comes to the people that may be on the spectrum or may have any disorders. I found that really interesting because I actually talked about that.
I'm not. I'm getting like every other word.
In my psychology class. Like,
Uh-oh, Shannon,
days ago.
Shannon.
but so I think that I was sit. Is my Wi-Fi breaking up?
Yes, totally, totally.
Oh no. Okay, do you want to just skip me and I'll type it
Yeah,
and we could go to the other questions?
yeah, we're gonna go to Joey.
Okay.
So
Okay,
Joey,
sorry about that.
oh, you're fine. So Joey, can you please come on and if you don't mind fielding some of the questions that we have in the chat on YouTube?
Yes. Hi, Chief. Thank you for joining us tonight again.
My pleasure.
So
Thank
we
you.
have about 6 questions. I hope you're ready. Um, so our first one comes from Julia. She asks, what has been your biggest challenge as police chief?
Well, I'm currently an assistant police chief at the town of Davie. And I think one of my, this is my 4th police department. I was assistant police chief also in with Seminole. I was a colonel at the Broward Sheriff's Office and captain with Fort Lauderdale. But I grew up in Fort Lauderdale. So it was, you know, when you grow up somewhere, you're comfortable, you have friends, you have family. When I moved on to other agencies and also coming here to Davie, and I'll use that for an example, I think the most difficult thing for me is to learn Davie Police Department. I need to learn and meet the people. I need to let the people know that I'm here. Basically, I consider myself a servant leadership. That's how what I consider myself. I'm here to serve them. They're not here to serve me. What can I do to help them? So I think if you ask me when in the agency here, they see me walk the hallways and go into offices almost every day because I'm walking around trying to meet people, trying to learn them. I want to know about them. And then when needed, I go back to them for about work. But if I only show up when it's about work, I kind of lose the value of letting them know that we care. And I think that's important in today's world. Again, I'm going back to the 5 pillars I mentioned when I first started. People are the most important thing. So my biggest challenge is always to make sure that I provide enough time to talk to those people and listen to them.
That's great. I like how you related it back to like the pillars and framework. So I have 2 questions from Coda. She asks, what has have there ever been any challenges specifically with body cameras? And Davie Police does utilize them, correct?
Well, yes and no. We just finished a body worn camera pilot program. So I'm going to back up for a second. I'll come back to and I'll finish that. When I was with the Broward Sheriff's Office with Chief Kinsey, he was there together. He was the undersheriff. One of the most difficult things we had to do was when Sheriff Israel told us that he wanted to go all in with body worn cameras. It was probably one of the most difficult things I had to do in that position at the time because we had absolutely no experience or knowledge to draw from in the body worn camera world. None of us putting it together or anyone at the agency had ever worn a camera. So it was all about trying to learn. Body worn camera proved to be extremely successful at the sheriff's office. We saw complaints go down tremendously. That obviously changes the behavior of the officer, also changed the behavior of the community. So it's a win-win all the way around. Coming here to Davie, they do not have body worn cameras. However, this year we started a pilot program and 20 officers were outfitted with the cameras. We do have plans to go all in, where it will become an agency tool. That's going to take a little bit of time, only because buying the cameras is the easy part. It's the infrastructure behind it. We'll have to have anywhere between 4 people assigned full time just to what we call the digital evidence unit to monitor and take care of the cameras. But I'm a strong believer in the program. I think now we're seeing nationwide the benefits it provides and how it's assisted law enforcement and the community to make everyone better at the end of the day.
Great. Joey, any other questions?
We do. We have actually quite a few. We have about.
Can we collapse any of them in the interest
Yes,
of time?
I'm gonna
Excellent.
combine these 2. So from Coda and Nicole, it's a similar question. It's asking about how does Davie Police handle situations where there is no pre-call data on people who aren't registered? And do you employ workers or caseworkers in the Davie Police Department to help with these situations?
Okay, so I'll go to number two first. We do have a victim advocate here at the police department. She's a full-time employee assigned to our criminal investigations division. Her role is to assist victims or families of the victims or any type of assistance needed to provide to help the individual. So that's the answer to question number two. Yes, we do. The first one, every situation is different. I really couldn't give you a checkbox or a checklist to say that if we respond to this, the officer needs to do A, B, and C. Because as soon as we do that, C doesn't happen. Now what do? So they have to really adjust to what's occurring, what happened. The special registry needs module we have in place is a huge tool for us. Now, something that the Broward County dispatch communication centers had in play for as long as I've been here in Broward County. If we know we have an individual who maybe is potentially violent, he has created problems in the past, or we have concerns of any type of mental health issues, you can do what's called a flag in the system. And if say it's my home, it would flag. So if they're going to dispatch you to a call for service at my home, this red flag would appear and tell the dispatcher all about me and about my past. That will help them prepare to understand a little bit further on what protocols or procedures they may use when they arrive.
Great. While Joey's getting his next question ready, I'm going to just grab Shannon's question for her. Mm-hmm. And it's a really good one. The special needs registry is really impressive. Her question is, are officers who respond to those calls, are they trained in any special way prior to entering the situation? Anything that has to do with various disorders, psychological disorders, Alzheimer's, the gamut of special needs.
So again, I'll go back to CIT, of course. They are trained, and we're trying to reach that 100% level with the agency. So the CIT is a 40-hour program. We are required to go through different trainings through FDLE. FDLE is they hold all the responsibilities for law enforcement in the state of Florida. They provide our certification. They direct us in what we're trained upon. With that, there's a few different sheets reference to what we have to go through, what we're trained on, whether it goes from human diversity to any type of elderly abuse, mental concerns. Additional training is provided. But CIT is really our go-to platform, along with the One Pledge Mine.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot. You don't, and I'm just fasten your seatbelt. You do not have to answer this, okay, at all. You could say to me, I'll text you later or something like that. Okay. So I teach in the PhD program, and I teach police and society. And my phone is blowing up right now with all of the PhD students. So I'm just wondering, think about it. You don't have to answer now, but would you be interested in, we won't live stream it, but you come to the class. We do it on Zoom because they're from all over the country. And you'd be my special guest in the classroom with them. There's like close to 20 of them. And then they could kind of pick your brain. What do you think?
It'd be my pleasure.
Don't answer me now.
No, be my pleasure.
I'm going to answer you. I'm going to ask you about your son, your Lao Tzu sword later that you have on your wall. It looks like Lao Tzu's sword, and I'll put you on a spot about coming to your office and seeing if I could look at that a little closer. But anyway, Joey, you want to come back and just let's finish up?
Yes. So we have two more questions. So Dina, we already answered your question about the building a relationship with people before. So I'm going to skip to Alex Pars. He asks, what is the best way for a candidate to find a leadership position in law enforcement? And is there a fast way per se?
So the first thing I'd say is, leadership, obviously we know it's a word used frequently. but I feel there are very few leaders. I think we should always strive to a leadership position. I've yet to reach mine. And I think as soon as somebody actually considers himself a leader, they're going to start to fail. So it's a constant resume builder. How do they get there in the police department? It starts with day one. Day one is your interview. And every day after that is your continuous interview on how you're going to perform. A lot of it has to do with, I think there are three basic rules to leadership. One is treat people the way you want to be treated. That's it. That's the most important one. Always be honest and do the best job you can working hard. And those three things, you really can't falter with that. So if the individual asks that question, has that desire, let them know that their interview to be a leader starts on day one, and how they go forward with those three principles are extremely important, because people will remember on how they were treated.
So, Joey, thanks. I'm going to ask this final question because I think that it's a really good one. So, one of our students is asking, do you think the relationship that you're building with the community is really phenomenal? Do you think it would work across the country, or is there something unique about Davie?
Well, I tell you, number one about Davie, we have a very good relationship with our community. Right now, our community supports us. I think they support us because we provide quality customer service, which is extremely important. A lot of times police departments, they don't see the community as their customers, but they are. Whether I use an example, if I'm in a restaurant and I'm getting ready to bite into a nice big old burger, I've had a long day, I'm sitting in the back, and somebody walks up to me and says, "Excuse me, are you busy?" Well, I got a 50-50 chance here. I can say something and say, "Don't I look like I'm busy?" And I can lose that person forever. Or I can put that burger down and say, "How can I help you?" Those little things like that, little things matter. So I think right now our relationship with the communities is very good. Last Sunday, October 30th, we had our first ever called Trunk or Treat for Halloween here at the police department. We expected to have a nice turnout. We ran out of candy. We had so many people here, so many people. It was absolutely tremendous. We had to go get more candy. Came back, ran out of candy second time. We had so many families here. We had a DJ here. They're dancing and singing. The kids are having a blast. And that was just such a great feeling. I was here the entire night. It was a great feeling to see that the community embraced us. We embraced them. And, the families knew they could bring their kids here and they're not going to get the candy laced with fentanyl. It was a great environment. So we're very proud of that relationship. And I only hope it can get stronger.
Fabulous. And, hopefully we maybe have you back. I would love to do our dean, who you met, who Dr. Durham, Dr. Kimberly Durham. She was texting me and she said, "How about if we have you on pretty regularly, conversations with the chief?" And I would love to do that. So don't answer me now. But definitely we'll be in touch. And we are so grateful. Look, we just dodged a bullet with the tropical storm. And I know that you were busy with preparation and all of that community outreach. So thank you really from the bottom of my heart, taking the time out of your busy schedule to do this for us. And we loved it. And I know that all of my students, the undergrads, those who are in our master's program and those who are in our PhD in CJ, a lot of them were in attendance. And I really look forward to you coming to my class, and we will, I'll sidebar with you on that. But thank you, Chief. Again, be safe. Any closing remarks? You've got them.
You know what? I would say this. I'll take a minute to market our brand. We are actively hiring quality people that would like to wear the uniform, wear this patch for the Davie Police Department. We have so many positive things to offer. It's a great salary. You get a $5,000 signing bonus if you become a new officer with Davie. There's a 20-year pension. We have tremendous health care and benefits that go along with everything. You get a take-home car. There's all the tools and equipment provided to you, and the town takes care of their employees. So if you're interested in a career in law enforcement, Davie, I'd love to have you. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, sir. I mean, if I wasn't 62 years old and loved my job with Nova Southeastern University School of Criminal Justice, I might be right on air trying to see if I could work with all of the horses. Anyway, thank you again, Chief. I'll talk to you during the week. Please be safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you for everything.
For being here with us. We really appreciate it. And so it's shameless plug time. If you've been looking in the chat, you can see that we've got a lot of amazing courses that we offer at the undergrad level in criminal justice, at the master's level, and at the doctoral level. And if you're interested in policing, if you're interested in becoming an executive, if you're interested in becoming an administrator, if you're interested in all of the aspects of the criminal justice system, or to be a researcher or to teach, this is the place for you. And we are really grateful to the Davie Police for their partnership and this collaboration. And Joey, do you want to give us a little plug on what are some of the other guests that we have coming soon?
Sure. Next week, we're bringing back Ed Densel, November 17th, 7 p.m. And then we're bringing him again December 8th, 7 p.m. And then December 1st, we have Chief Carol Presson, who will discuss good police leadership.
Excellent.
And then some things to look out for 2023 is Maggots, Murder, and More with forensic entomologist Dr. Adrian Brundage from the University of Texas.
Awesome. Thank you. What is the name of that, Joey?
Maggots, Murder, and More.
Maggots, Murder, and More. What mind created that title?
It had to be you.
Had to be me. Had to be me. All right. Thanks, Joey. And thank you, Michaela Porter, for also being behind the scenes. Thank you to my CJ students, and thank you to everyone, all of the deans, Dr. Castro, Dr. Kushner, Dr. Durham. We are so grateful to you for all of your support, and I hope everyone has a blessed and safe evening.